Evening. This is for the vacant NABF Super Welterweight title. They're scheduled to go 12 rounds. Supervising for the NABF this evening, Dean Smith. The officials assigned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission are timekeepers Mike Lasella and Jane Broadfoot. Ringside physicians Dr. Donald Romeo and Dr. Flip Homansky. And your judges for this bout, Spider Bynum, Chuck Giampa, and Jerry Roth. And your referee is Carlos Padilla. Introducing first in the red corner, weighing in at 154 pounds with a record of 16-8-1 and 4 knockouts, from Reading, Pennsylvania, Steve Little. And in the blue corner, weighing in at 151 pounds with a record of 18-2 and 11 knockouts, from San Diego, California, currently ranked 6th by the IBF, Terry Norris.
Who's the chip seconds? Chip seconds. Okay, Norris, Little, you were already given instructions earlier in your respective dressing rooms. Are there any questions? No questions, seconds, come out fighting.
Have you ever heard anybody have a question?
No, I don't remember. Steve Little didn't have any. He's happy to be in at the right weight. And for Terry Norris, this young man, I tell you, Barry, he feels like he is very close and ready for a title shot.
And I think he is. He's been very impressive his last couple of fights. Steve Little, on the other hand, and we should point this out again as we get going here, had to lose 1.5 pounds. That's not a lot of weight, but when you have to do that on the morning of a fight, it often just takes everything out of it.
Interesting little surprise here early. The Norris camp very convinced that Steve Little would be backpedaling and moving. Hey, Little came out after him.
Yeah, in fact, Norris felt that he had to take the fight to Little, and he would have to be more aggressive than he usually is.
Worrying about that right now, and it's true because you really have two boxers in the ring. But Norris, very much a boxer-puncher because he can really bang.
Little, very much like Robert Shannon in the fight we saw earlier, in one of those situations where he needs a win. His last 6 fights, he's won 3 and he's lost 3.
And in his case, also much like Shannon, a couple of those losses to some pretty good people. Lost to Tyrone Trice by decision. Lost to Robert Hines, who is now a world champion, also by decision. And in fact, Shannon lost to a world champion before the guy became a world champion also.
We talk about Norris's fight with Quincy Taylor. So often a fighter will have one fight, and all of a sudden he feels, hey, I can beat anybody around. And I think that's what happened to Norris in the Quincy Taylor fight. Some good jabs by Norris. Norris's jab keeping Little off of him.
There's that right that I talked about. It didn't quite get there by Norris. And the 1.5 pounds Little had to lose today. We'll see as this fight wears on what impact that has on him.
Wild left hand by Little. Norris counterpunching pretty effectively early here.
A little wild with the hook, but you see Norris coming with the right after it. Terry's a very good combination puncher. So we've seen Terry's brother Orlin, the heavyweight. We saw him down in San Diego win a decision recently.
That was one of the reasons that Terry said this fight was so important to him. He said he'd really like to be a champion along with his brother,
who has the NABF North America crown, which is a crown that is kind of like getting into the playoffs in the NBA. See how hard Steve Little is to hit. He's a crafty veteran. Norris throws some combinations, but they're just not quite getting there.
That was an interesting first round, actually. Norris probably got a little the better of it, but Little got his shots in.
Let's get to the relax. All right.
Don't hit him. Don't hit him, son. You don't need to.
What I want you to do is keep him in his eyes when you go to the body, okay? So they can't see you going to his body, okay? Just don't go down there. You know, just wide open, okay? Just drink it. Go ahead. All right, yeah. Just 2 jabs in his face. Behind him with 2 jabs. Shoot right hand to the body, okay? That's nice.
Terry was able to land the left hand. He lands the hook after Steve Little had thrown his own hook. Kind of a wide looping shot by Norris. Not necessarily typical of what he can do, but he's warming to the task.
And in Norris's corner, they were telling him, as you heard, to go to the jab, but then go the right hand of the body. But look at his eyes.
They really want Norris to work that body earlier. They feel that if he can do that early, he might have a chance to take Steve out later. Knocking out Steve Little, not at all an easy task. I mentioned the
champion happened once. That was the Glenn Wolfe down in Tampa back in 1985. Take a look at your card after the first round, Al. How'd you see that one?
Well, as you mentioned, a very narrow win in that first round for Terry Norris. Didn't dominate the round, but I thought he landed some more effective punches. Back in '86, a good year for Steve Little in the sense that he beat 2 named fighters, beat Pepino Cuevas and David Braxton over 10. Neither of those men at that point at the top of their game, but still Cuevas a former champion and Braxton the #1 contender.
Carlos Padilla has a little conversation with him, I think, about holding it.
There Norris digging with the left hook downstairs. He's not really following his instructions, the corner's instructions, because they want him to concentrate on that body.
Just a lead left hand, nothing fancy.
And then Norris followed with the left hook in the right hand. But again, he's looking at the head instead of the body. Steve Little, as I said, a very crafty fighter. He is not the kind of guy you're going to get an easy shot at.
Long right hand, just a little short.
Look how hard Little is to hit to the head. Norris is missing, and that's why they want him downstairs. Now, Steve is not making Norris pay for those misses.
Missed, and it was a slip. No knockdown.
The jab of Norris, which has been an underused weapon in this bout. And I'll tell you, Steve Little has not used his jab as much as I thought he might.
Now, Little seems to be looking for the big shot. An awful lot more than I expected he might. So the second round, pretty much of a replay of the first round. End of 2, Norris and Little.
Here's what Terry Norris is, people want him to do, and that is dig with that left hook downstairs. And Barry, that's what he did there, though not enough of it really in that round.
Good job.
I think as you look at him, has got to know a couple of things right now. That he can be an elusive target for Terry Norris, and defensively he's not fighting badly. He just needs to fire back now.
It was interesting in Norris's corner. It seemed like they were saying that Little was tired, that they felt was tired, that he was breathing through his mouth and was tired. Remember, this is only the third round. We're going 12.
Again, we go back to the fact that he had to lose that £1.5 today. We'll see if that had any impact.
I don't get any indication, frankly, just from watching him, that he is tired.
I don't think so. I don't see fatigue at all.
Pretty good left hand by Norris, and Little holds on.
I'm surprised Terry Norris isn't using his jab more. He's got a good jab, and if he jabbed his way in, it would set up that left hook a lot better. Big right by Little, and that may have rocked Terry Norris, at least momentarily. That was a superb right hand by Steve Little.
And it came off a wild left by Norris that missed.
Again, there's that lead left by Norris being a wild punch. Nice counter. Little realizes he really stunned Norris with that punch. Carmen Graziano in the Little's corner is telling, come on, go after him. This punch could change the complexion of this bout because it lets Terry Norris know that Steve Little has got more firepower than he might have imagined.
But again, you go back to that pound and a half that Little has had to lose, and he wants to be a little bit cautious. He doesn't want to just burn himself out here and try to get Norris out of there if, in fact, he's not hurt.
There's the jab of Little. Both these men need that jab much more than they're using it, and it's a staple of their attack, so you'd wonder why they would forget about it. There's Norris trying his.
Good left hand again, though. Caught Norris backing up. Norris did say when we talked to him that he felt he had to be a little bit more aggressive. And he is doing that, but he's not being aggressive behind the jab.
No, he's throwing wild left hooks. There's the body shot underneath. That's the first meaningful body shot Terry Norris has thrown.
Carlos Padilla tells him it was low.
I didn't think it was low. I thought it was legal. Good counter right by Little. Steve Little is measuring him with that right hand.
Good left hand by Norris. Backs Little up. And another combination. Backs Little up further. And Little switches up for a moment. Follow back into the corner of Steve Little.
It's Carmen Graziano leading in to talk.
Once you start your forward motion, finish with right. Take the tension off your muscle. Don't try that hard. See, hang more, and snap your punches. I'm telling you, he's vulnerable. He's easy to hit with a right hand. Don't try that hard. Snap the right and drop your head with it so you come back with a hook. Try a 3-punch combination. And think. Some of the black. That's it.
Early in the last round, this could be a punch that could be important. Little with a good counter right hand right there against Terry Norris, I think had some impact. And Terry Norris winging the left hook. And later on in the round was still able to land some very strong jabs. Steve Little heard a word from his corner man that you don't hear often in boxing. He said he's vulnerable.
He said he could be hit with the right hand. Now let's see if Little can do that.
Does Carmen mean that Terry's like a sensitive, caring 80s kind of guy, or does he mean he's vulnerable for a punch? Which do you think?
That's right. He's feeling, he's caring. So here, so now.
Let's look at I think it's a good time to look at my scoring. I have got Terry Norris winning this fight by 1 point. Gave him 2 out of the first 3 rounds.
Now Norris was laughing at Little, and Little stepped right in. Little says, didn't bother me. A lot of jawing going on. There's a good right hand by Little.
By Little. That hurt Terry Norris, I think. That really was a good right hand. I think that one really got to Norris. I think it definitely hurt him.
And Norris now showing a healthy respect for Little.
That's the second right hand in this fight that I think Terry Norris really felt. And I don't think Little understands that. I really don't. And it may be partially what you said. He doesn't want to burn himself out and really go after Terry Norris.
You know, it's interesting. You think that a pound and a half is not really that much, and you usually can lose it just in water weight. But what I think some people don't understand is that a fighter has to dry out before the weigh-in. And so he comes to the weigh-in as dry as he can possibly be and still has to take off a pound and a half. And that is when you get dehydrated and really get some major problems.
Well, think if you were going to have a strong physical activity any day, whether it's a basketball game or a racquetball game, you had to go lose a pound and a half before you did it. It's not easy.
Halfway through round 4, Little fighting a very good fight so far.
He is. In the last 2 rounds, especially tactically, he's doing what he needs to do.
He seems to have Terry Norris just a little bit confused right at the moment, too, not knowing exactly what ploy he should use.
I think it's because Terry Norris has gotten away from the game plan that he set out for himself. First 5 rounds for Terry Norris was supposed to be working that body and very little else. He hasn't really done that very much. He has not concentrated on that. So it's been a little of this, a little of that for Norris, and I thought he won 2 of the first 3 rounds, but I think this one may be going toward Steve Little a little bit.
All those punches missed by Norris.
Very hard to hit Steve Little in the head.
And again, Little is just making Norris miss. Inside of 10 seconds, remaining round number 4. Maybe the best round of the fight for Steve Little. He's done a very good job in this round. We'll be back.
Little will land this right hand. And Terry Norris, I think, felt that one as much as he did that one a couple of rounds ago. That was a big punch for Little.
Little fighting a very intelligent fight so far, and it could come down to conditioning, of course.
Norris with that left a little low. Left hook downstairs by Terry Norris.
Norris starting to work the jab a little bit more here in this round.
No holding, okay?
Carlos Padilla says no holding to Steve Little. He says, hey, I'm not holding.
Norris, the white trunks, the word terrible. That is not an editorial comment, incidentally. That's his nickname.
Wait, the night is young.
That's right. Little with the white trunks and blue stripe with the words lightning. Did you have a nickname when you boxed?
You kidding? No.
Just plain Al.
Yeah, that's all.
Halfway through round 5.
Made Jimmy Young look like an aggressive fighter, you know? You know, you said it early, Barry. Terry Norris is a little frustrated. He can't get into the rhythm of this fight. Now, it's not that Steve Little is doing wonderful things. It's just that he's making Terry Norris fight something other than his fight.
And right there, you saw a couple of frustration punches by Norris.
I haven't seen Terry Norris miss this much in a long, long time because he's a very quick and accurate puncher normally. Look at that. I mean, Little's making him miss everything. But Steve Little himself hasn't done that much offensively.
Norris is telling us that he works with his brother Orlin in the ring, and Orlin, of course, is a heavyweight.
Yeah, sparring with him, boy, you get in with these guys, and it must feel like they're not even hitting you.
By the same token, it must feel like they're gnats in there. They're just all over the place because they're going to be a lot quicker, certainly, than around. We'll follow you back to Terry Norris's corner. That's a tough round to judge.
It really is. Steve Little, Norris, I thought, landed some good body shots, but not that many.
Good job. Good job.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Just keep doing what
so
you're
working it uppercut. You're working it uppercut now, okay? You get into it, okay? But set him up for it. Just don't go wild for it. You get caught with it, okay? All right.
You stay just about perfect.
Tori, show avoid holding, okay? Both of you are holding and holding. Don't put too much pressure.
The defense of Steve Little has been important in this fight. Terry Norris missing. missing.
He just does those little things that make an opponent miss.
Clever boxer, Steve Little.
Hold it, okay? Both of you.
This is the 6th round. 12 rounds for the NABF Super Welterweight Championship. Terry Norris and Steve Little. And another example of Little's ability to slip punches. But those are the things, Al, I have to wonder, do the judges see that, and how much does it really help Steve Little?
Well, it doesn't help him unless he starts punching. He isn't throwing that many punches. But, of course, if you're not getting hit, it's pretty hard for them to score rounds against you.
There's a right hand by Norris, and down goes Little. Just like that.
Got hit that time. Wow.
6, 7, 8.
You better get,
9.
He's not going to get up. He looked perfectly fine, and he didn't get up.
Man.
And he's still out.
He is not fine at all.
He looked like he was just kind of shaking his head and saying, okay, and just waiting for the count, and he is still out. Well, I'll tell you what, lightning got struck.
Boy, I'll tell you, we talked earlier, and one of the keys was landing the right hand for Terry Norris, and even though he may have been a bit frustrated over those first 5 rounds, the right came in quick fashion to end this fight.
Little was ducking down, it looked like, and Norris punched down at him, if I'm not mistaken, with a right hand. And just like that, a one-punch knockout. You don't see that very often, especially from a boxer like Terry Norris.
Now, Terry Norris has power, there's no question about that, but you don't think of him as a one-punch knockout artist. And for Steve Little, who had been fighting a pretty intelligent and good bout, it was a quick and painful ending, and he's still on his stool. It is amazing that as you looked at Steve Little, it looked like he was just nodding and listening to the count and was going to get up at any moment. And my goodness, when he did get up, he was very wobbly. Still is wobbly. And we'll take a look at the right hand that sent Steve Little down and out. It sets it up, starts with the jab. Oh, that's as good a right hand as you're going to throw.
And here he just sits up. And he just looked like he was going to sit there and wait for the 8 count and get up.
From a different angle, you'll see just exactly how well that... Oh, man. Straight as could be, right on the button. Can't throw a right hand much better. Even though he didn't jab, he feinted with the jab and then threw the right hand, so that gave some movement to it, and he was able to land the right.
Just a perfect punch by Terry Norris. That is a classic one-punch knockout. Let's go to the ring announcer, Stan Harris. We'll get the official.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner by knockout at 1 minute and 7 seconds of the 6th round, and the new NABF Super Welterweight Champion, Terry Norris.
Well, Terry Norris, 1 minute and 7 seconds into the 6th round, just takes care of business. It was a frustrating night up to that point for him. Terry Norris, a knockout winner over Steve Little, and what a punch. Look at it again. We'll be back right after this.